Welcome to the House & House Real Estate Unplugged podcast. I'm Luke Remington, founder and director at House & House. And in today's episode, we're deep diving into our highly anticipated market reports for 2024, covering data and trends across 30 vibrant communities in Dubai. As this city's real estate landscape continues to evolve, our expert guests from sales, leasing, and our off-plan divisions will share valuable insights on what the year has revealed. From emerging neighbourhoods to shifts in buyer preferences, we'll explore the factors driving the market and what to expect moving forward into 2025. Whether you're a seasoned investor, a first-time buyer, or you're simply curious about the Dubai property scene, this episode will be packed with essential information to guide your journey. Let's get started. Joining us today are three of our esteemed experts who bring a wealth of knowledge and insights to the table. So let's get started. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Mokhtar, you're going to be leading from an off-plan point of view.
Amazing.
You've been in the business quite a while.
Yes, over a decade now in real estate.
Okay.
So I've majored in mathematics, economics, and have been studying the laws of markets since. Now manager at House & House, lovely company, very happy, managing a team of 10 people in the off-plan department, and we've had a phenomenal year 2024.
Well, we'll dive into that a little bit later. Thomas, Residential Sales Director, welcome.
Oh, thanks for having me again, Luke. Always good to be here.
Another decade or so of experience with you, Thomas?
Yeah, I think I've been in it now been here, this is my 9th year at House. And I've done it for about 5 years beforehand in the UK.
Nice place in the UK.
Peterborough. Yes, I don't get homesick often, put it that way.
Jake, Leasing Director.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Lots of experience from your side, and hopefully you've got lots of good information for us as well.
Hopefully, yeah, definitely a lot to report on last year.
Essentially what I'm trying to get at, guys, is there's decades of experience between us, and there's lots of podcasts out there, and there's lots of media reports, and there's lots of other reports out there on what's happened in 2024. So I want you to combine it from not just a House & House perspective, but from a kind of Dubai perspective as well. Some of it's kind of misleading. And I think also with these reports, it's sometimes quite difficult to read. There's so many numbers, there's so many percentages. So to try and give our listeners actually from the coalface what is actually happening. 2024, I hate the word record breaking, but it seemed to be most podcasts that we were talking about record breaking numbers. And there's no getting away from Dubai as a buzzword, as a brand. It's just continued growth. Even I was listening to, I think, the number one podcast in the world yesterday, and they were mentioning Dubai and the outgo of millionaires or billionaires from China, UK, and all these different countries. So, Thomas, I think I'll go into you to start with, because I think residential sales is something across the world. We don't just all focus on off-plan. So let's go from residential sales, which happens worldwide. What have you seen in 2024?
Not to bang the same drum as you just said, but of course, record-breaking year in terms of volume of sales, over 155 billion dirhams worth of sales, 58,000 transactions plus, which is 19% circa increase from 2023.
Yeah.
We've seen that at House & House as well. As we said, we don't want to dive into our figures, but we've had about 30% growth in terms of our numbers. So we are ahead of the curve in terms of the market's doing, which is great for us. But yeah, it's a great time to be in the market as both a homeowner, as an agent, as a buyer. It's just everyone's very bullish about it. Everywhere you get is good news. Every billboard you're driving down on these highways in Dubai, there's another launch and so on. It's a real buzzword. I don't think there's anywhere in the world, especially driving down home, you don't see much published about property too much. It's occasionally makes the news in budget talks, but here it is literally just, you don't know anybody. You walk as a real estate agent, I'll meet people who are friends from home, moved out here or whatever, and all they talk to me about is the housing market and so on. It really is it's a great place to be.
So 2024, let's look back at that year. You've mentioned some strong numbers there. I feel a lot of buyers had FOMO and just massive fear of missing out, and they saw the increases in, I think this were kind of it would have been bottomed out at about 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And then from 4 years ago, I believe we've had something like on average a 60% increase to now. People are worried about missing out, and am I going to miss getting on the property ladder? But we've got a lot of wealthy people coming in. Mm-hmm. As the year has gone on, have you felt that fear of missing out is still happening? Or have you got people now thinking, I'm sitting on the fence, I'm at a 4-year high, can it continue? Or am I better off waiting for the future?
Great question. And I think the buyer behaviours now and the general mindset, more so talking, on a mass scale, is that they look at Dubai, I think, as a more longer term place to call home than ever before. I know it's been mentioned, and I've mentioned it in previous podcasts, that, when we came originally, especially years ago, that it was definitely just seen as a 1 or 2 year project for most people. And in reality nowadays, there's a lot of people that have left Dubai and coming back. There's a lot of people, if you say to them, they're up in their families here, to the schools, the amount of school openings, in terms of volume of schools there's over 200 schools now.
The problem is, it's not just the number of schools. You can't, to try and get into these schools now at the moment, it says a lot.
Absolutely. One of my good friends is a teacher. He moved back to the UK, then just came back this year. He had a 3-year gap outside of Dubai. Couldn't resettle back into life back in the UK as well as he was here, and he can only get 1 kid in the school, and it used to be a 2 to 3 kid policy. So it just goes to show you the competition for places. But my point is that you won't move your family here and move them into schools because it's unsettling for them if you didn't have that long-term mindset. So before, I think people would want to be proven right about, oh no, the market's going to crash, or it's going to, I'll wait for that, or I'll be proven right that this bubble's going to burst. But I think if you have the money behind you, the capital, and you have a long-term vision, it makes more sense to purchase a home, which I think more people are doing now, even at a high price, because they're thinking, well, even if it doesn't go up dramatically for the next 5 to 10 years, my plan is to stay here for that time. So the cost of renting in that period, and the fact that it's my home and I can do what I want to it and renovate, extend, whatever, I think people have more that mindset and jumping on that even at a high price.
You touched on it, that people now see it as not a 2-year project. Do you still see that was going back before, right? That's going back to the early 2020s or up pre-COVID, post-COVID, that kind of thing. Are you genuinely seeing people now looking to come out here and say, I have no intentions of going back to my home country for the next 10 years?
100%. I think you don't need to look too far on global media channels about the political situations in certain countries, and we're not certainly in place to commentate on that. It's above our pay grade, but it's only negative news. And even comparing it to the UK, where me and Jake, you're from, Luke, obviously Mokhtar can talk more about his country, France, but it just seems like the cost of living there is now almost rivaled here, and that was always seen as the selling point of staying back home, that it was too expensive to live here. The price per square foot here compared to global cities, right? Once again, you can look at different indexes, they'll tell you different figures, but it tends to always be out the top 50, which is then looking at it as people look at it as great value still. And I just think that, people now, you listen to them, like, the cost of the taxes have gone up. As Simon Baker spoke to us about the other day in a meeting, it's like now, if the wealthy, you talked about these high net worth individuals coming here, the 20% VAT now on private schools, for instance, that 20% VAT is the equivalent to a year of schooling out here. And I'm not saying that the school standard of here is maybe as good as a private school, but I'm sure some are. And then so these little pushes for people, like that might be the straw that broke the camel's back for some of these high net worth things. They just think, do you know what, I've given so much to the economy in taxes over the last 20 plus years. Now you're taxing this. These are the things that then push people to move here. And then of course it just further improves the market here because they move their wealth here.
I would probably say that the schooling has gone up so much that it probably would be better.
Because you've got kids. I've only just had a baby.
I feel a lot of these kind of prolific schools in the UK, or established teachers that have been in their jobs for 10 and 20 years and going around different home counties, I do actually think they've had enough and they've moved out. So these good people are moving out, and that's what you've got a lot of youngsters and future entrepreneurs in all these global cities that are coming here, which is just a good thing, right? You mentioned great value, Tom. I've written that down and you've mentioned price indexes, and you're probably comparing those price indexes with Hong Kong, Tokyo, Paris, London, New York. The question is, for people coming in, is it great value?
It depends where you're from in said country, but I'm very confident that in Peterborough, where I'm from, a 3-bedroom semi-detached home now, that's even north of £250,000, which is circa 1.25 million dirham. Now, okay, you can't get too much out here for that, but then if you then travelled literally, I'm talking 40 minutes down the road, that price towards London, okay, and this is still an hour's, decent hour's drive still from central London, they're like £500,000 to 2.5 million dirham plus, just because you're within a 60-minute drive from London. And it's not a particularly lovely area. It's not like an affluent area. It's just your bog standard 3-bedroom semi-detached home. So suddenly then there's value. So then someone who, with an equivalent of moving to Town Square, who's only 30-minute drive from the major attractions and tourist sites, and such as downtown Palm Jumeirah, in the Dubai Marina in Dubai, sees that as great value, because it's like they're getting a bigger home, circa 2,000 square foot plus home to 2,500 for the same price, living in a tax-free, on income tax-free country with miles more safety aspects and the quality of living, and just like you said, you're just surrounded by people who are driven to succeed. Whereas I think especially if you come to the UK, it's almost like now there's no motivation to succeed, because all you're going to do is just get taxed. So it's like a business losing its best employees to a rival company who's offering them so many more benefits. That's how I see, and that's not probably just the UK. I imagine that's across the board. Most of the places around the world, which is why the migration of millionaires to here is significantly higher than anywhere else.
It's interesting, Mokhtar, because all these countries that we're competing against, they've always had taxes. And if you look at the taxes over the years, they've gone up depending on which party, left wing, the right wing, who's been in charge. But there's always been taxes. And I don't believe, or certainly my personal opinions, I don't believe people mind paying the taxes, providing there's no lot of potholes in the road, or there's safety and the police are doing a correct job, or the hospitals and just all these things are put into place. You're coming from a off-plan section, which has taken over 60% of all the transactions in 2024. What have you said? That's a big number. And before we went on air, we're talking about people buying in 2024 and potentially not getting it delivered for another 3 years. And is that market still going to be there in 3 years? But before we go to that question, 2024, 60%, over 60% transactions, phenomenal.
That's incredible. And, from 2023, the off-plan market has increased 66% year on year in number of transactions. So we've recorded 106,000 transactions for 2024. And in value, 53% increase, Luke. That's just huge. Today, it makes 61% of the total sales market. It means that it has the bigger market share of the total residential sales in the whole market. And we're not surprised, because we clearly see that we are building Dubai. It's under construction right now. And as Tom was saying, people are coming from all over the world there. The population increase is massive. We've recorded net growth, 147,000 people coming to Dubai, minus the people who are leaving Dubai.
In 2024?
Yes.
And we're at the moment 3.8.
We are 3.8 as of the 1st of January 2025. And we have not even delivered 26,000 properties delivered in 2024. So if we consider like 2.5 people or 3 people per household, we are massively under shortage of properties. And that's why developers are doing their hard work to keep on the machine going to deliver properties. And that's why we will speak to Jake. The rentals have been increasing massively, and they're still also projected to increase in 2025.
So if we got more than half of the transaction going to off-plan, I'm assuming that people that are buying off-plan can't move into it. So they're investors and they're renting in the meantime, or they're investors and they're still living in Monaco or London or what have you, and they just want a slice of Dubai. Is it people that are planning to move here? Is it people that are planning to holiday here? Is it people that just want to have a better ROI than they can do in these other cities?
So I would say, look, that they're a mix of everything. we've seen a considerable amount of people buying because they're planning to move to Dubai in the next 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. They're just working out their businesses, working out their family situations, and they need 1 year to 3 years in order to settle everything, especially people moving from Europe. In Europe, as we were talking about taxation, it takes a lot of time to structure if people have their own companies or if their employees, they need to leave their job, whether they are in small and medium enterprises or in big companies looking to relocate to Dubai. So this takes time, and yes, a big chunk of them are buying to move to Dubai rather than to invest, but also a good part are investing because they're comparing investment perspectives in all different markets in the world, whether in real estate or not. I mean, obviously we are in a recession in most parts of the world. In Europe, it has been confirmed. In France, for example, 2 consecutive semesters, we have entered into a recession, and people want options. And Dubai now is in a growing economical situation, and its real estate market will benefit from that. So they're diversifying and investing in an emerging market.
Which, Mokhtar, let's look at these key communities that you've seen that activity happening. You know, you've got a client that's either sent you a lead and it's come through your WhatsApp or the portals or the websites, where before you've opened that lead, do you know what they're looking for and where they want to be? Is it, 10 years ago, everyone's talking about the Palm Jumeirah because it's on TV and this man-made island. What is the prolific communities that you saw in 2024?
So, I mean, it depends, of course, on the profile of the client. We cannot know what the client is looking for before we have that quality conversation with the client to know what is their profile, how are they moving to Dubai and why, what is their center of interest, what lifestyle are they looking at, are they moving alone or with their families. So before we have that conversation, we obviously don't know, but as in terms of communities, there are several communities that performed very well, that are in high demand. We're looking obviously at the downtown district as always. We have now the extension of downtown, which is Business Bay. Also, we can consider Maidan area. People want to stay close to jobs, want to stay close to downtown. That's still a fact. But also we've developed other communities such as Dubai Creek Harbor, which is fully operated by Emaar. Massive infrastructure over there. Now we're looking at new waterfront developments that have been going on.
Palm Jebel Ali.
Yes, Palm Jebel Ali, which will be double the size of Palm Jumeirah. That's a little bit of a longer term project, but we can see something on the 3 to 5 years perspective with Dubai Islands, Dubai Maritime City, and Emaar Port Mina Rashid. So these are the trilogy, as we call them, waterfront properties. They will be at close distance to downtown while offering their residents the ability to be on the beachfront sea view and having 15-minute distance to their work.
Every 17 hours, was it 17 or 18 hours? There's a new property launch.
Yeah, we've had 503 projects launched in 2024. So yeah, that's one every 17 hours, which is massive. That's 132,000 units launched and 106,000 transactions.
So out of curiosity, it's actually good for us to know, even, let's just say out of every 17, what percentage of off-plan projects do really house and house? Because that's so many, right?
Yes.
And not every single one could be a good purchase. I think there must be some, it's not about tarnishing developers or so on, but there must be some poor investments maybe in there, and maybe some people being misguided to buy certain things.
Yeah.
Because there's just so much choice. So what percentage do you think approximately out of every off-plan project available do you work on for your clients, for instance?
Yeah, that's a very interesting point, Tom. Let's try not to be diplomatic and go straight to the point. In Dubai, we have the good, the bad, and the ugly. Obviously, with that amount of developments, we believe that less than 10% offer really good value for money. And what we do with our investment committee is that we study these projects. So we study, first of all, location by location. Does it make sense? Will that location find its demand on handover? Second, we study the developer history, track record, who's their contractor, what they have delivered in the past. Will they be late? Were they late before? Will they deliver the good quality finishing that they're promising? Is the project economically viable? So are they not launching too too much supply for the demand anticipated. So we do all this analysis before recommending to our agents so that they recommend to their investors the good value projects. So yeah, you're right. Less than 10% actually make good value.
Is it good value at the moment, Mokhtar? I said it to Tom on the, are the figures real? You know, we see these things selling out in a day or 2 days or a week. Are they sold out in a day? You know, it's just everything in the world at the moment. If you want to get this Hermes handbag, you can't get it sold out. And really, is it sold out? You hear all these different stories of the watches or...
So, yes and no, because not all of them, of course. As we're saying, less than 10% make actually good value. It actually boils down to the developer's reputation and the location. And the price entry point, of course, it should be very well competitive with respect to the same location, and if we're comparing apple to apple. But yeah, investors should be careful. I think that there is huge value in Dubai's property market, but one needs to do their due diligence to be able to make sure that they enter into a proper investment that corresponds to their strategy as well. Some people, for example, say, okay, Mokhtar, I want to buy, I want to resell in 3 years' time. I want to trade in real estate. When they tell me that, the amount of properties that will correspond to that strategy will directly decrease. Because not so many properties can offer this value, even though so many agents in the market today offer huge capital returns in short time. That sometimes was possible in 2020 when we're rock bottom, and in 2021. It's no longer doable now in 2024. So we need to be very careful about what we recommend to our clients.
Don't believe necessarily the billboards that say in 10% ROI and
at all.
You know, double by the time you move in 2-3 years, it's going to have tripled in price.
No, at all. We need to be very careful also when we're handling our clients' money, because they've worked so hard to save that money, to invest it in the right place, and we cannot give improper advice just to take our commission and leave the table.
It seems like, you know, everyone wanted to get into that Bitcoin thing when it was going up, and even, you know, I was away last summer, and you're at a dinner table and you're speaking to some friends, and they speak to some friends that made a couple of million on a property. Because they did it, they now want to do it. But at some time, it does change, and it doesn't keep going 45-degree angle, keep continuously going up. Tenants, Jake, found it extremely difficult in 2024. They could blame you for putting prices up.
Yeah, they could do. Yeah, I mean, so we are dictated by the market. We don't dictate the market, you know. So that's probably my answer to that one. But yeah, it was a not a strange market last year, but there wasn't to the digit almost. There was pretty much the same number of new rental contracts last year as there was the year before.
Is that when we're talking new rent contracts? And again, this is what I was going back to the start. Sorry to interrupt you.
Okay.
When we're talking about rental contracts and people see these high numbers, whether they're interested or not, we have the Ajari contract and we have a new contract. So are these combined as a renewal because people are staying and just renewing, and that number gets added to someone moving from their home country?
So the vast majority of the rental contracts from last year, of the 550,000, would have been renewals.
Because there's only 800,000 properties in Dubai.
Yeah.
550,000.
Yeah, so a lot of
tenancies.
them would have been renewals. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then you've got to remember as well that it's still, and it seems like a crazy figure, but 60% of the market is less than 80,000 dirhams. So you're looking at these areas like Deira, there's a lot of you know, lower end units. So we actually only operate in a small section of the market. But yeah, in terms of last year, I think there was the big change early last year around March, April, where they increased the rental calculator. I meant that a lot of people, you know, obviously landlords were issuing increases, and people probably just had to bite the bullet and pay the increase and stay put in the market. Obviously, a lot of them were pushed further out into communities that were a little bit, you know, maybe a 45-minute drive from their workplace rather than a 20-minute drive. But yeah, there was, in terms of the AED build against the transactions, that rose by about 17%. So despite not having more transactions as much, there was a lot more in terms of the
so I would have been paying approximately 17% more for my rental in 2024 compared to the year before.
Most likely, yeah. That's what the numbers would suggest. Yeah.
Okay, and what are these tenants? So landlords are walking down the street, high-fiving each other, kicking their heels, very happy. What are tenants saying? Value for money or not value for money?
Yeah, so similar question to there, but it's very much tied to the sales market as well, right? And I think, of course, some landlords are going to be getting amazing returns if they bought properties 4 or 5 years ago at a lower rate and have seen drastic growth in that and have been able to get rental prices or increases on their rent during that period, then they're going to get really good returns. But if you were to buy a property today and rent it out tomorrow, you'd probably still be expecting somewhere between a 4 and 7% return, which is a great return for an investor, but it's also not obscene. So I think it's fair market value.
And I'm interested in the tenants that are arriving to Dubai, these new tenants that are coming into Dubai International Airport, and they've got their families or they haven't got their families, singles, and they've just had enough of where they're coming from. Yeah. Is that what they're saying? They've had enough of where they're coming from, and they just upset with the grey skies and the gloomy politicians, or? Yeah,
I'd say so. I mean, the grey skies have always been there, and people have dealt with that. But I think we do benefit from these major international political events, and when our home countries seemingly are getting much worse, Dubai continuously improves, and I think even more so now. Somebody always knows someone or knows of someone that is in Dubai and seemingly living a very successful and nice life. So it seems more reachable and achievable than it probably ever has.
Are tenants going to have any help in 2025?
So the Smart Rental Index calculator has been updated as of January 1st this year. So that should give you a more fair and accurate representation of what your property that you actually live in is worth. So it'll be building specific. So that means that if you're maybe on an entry-level building in a community, historically, the averages in that community would have meant that you would have been liable for an increase in rent when that came around. But of course, that's not very fair. If you live in sort of the lower end of that community. Likewise, for the landlords, they would have also been penalised because if they had the best property in the community, then the averages would have not allowed that to have had a fair increase. Even if one, if you were to look at it as an individual unit, you would probably see, actually, it's worth a little bit more than the rent that's being paid. So it's supposed to level the playing field out, and I think it'll be a lot more even and fair moving forward.
Who's got the numbers for the number of properties due to be handed over in 2025? Anticipated, expected?
I read the numbers sometimes compared to which report you read, but it's circa 40,000
new units.
Yeah, delivered.
Okay, with a population that will be far, far greater. Even if you're looking, Mokhtar, I think you mentioned an average family of 3.
Yes, 2.5 to 3.5, let's say. We're still very much on shortage of properties, and that's why I also believe that the property market will still keep on increasing steadily for 2025, the rental market as well.
And it's also what percentage of them properties are the property types. When we differentiate types here in Dubai, generally by 3, which is apartments. Naturally, that's common sense to what they are. Townhouses, which are, depending where you're from, are properties joined together, either terraced homes like the UK or semi-detached. And then you've got villas, which are independent homes. And even last year, there was only 1% launches of independent villas out of all these off-plan, these thousands and thousands of launch, or hundreds of launches, I should say, and only 1% were standalone villas and around 11% townhouses.
Yeah, so if we try to really dig deep into the numbers, we've had 89% of apartments that have transacted, 10% townhouses and only 1% villas. Villas make up less than 5% of the total already existing stock, so we're going against the wave, knowing that people who are moving to Dubai in good majority are asking for villas, standalone or townhouses. So
and that's now the story of like you said before, our more what buyer behaviours and why is the market changing and maturing. Really, that's what we call it. It's a maturing market now. It's not such a speculative market, and it's, for instance, even people like myself who came here single, living in a study room or a maid's room when you first come here years ago, and now, then you upgrade to renting a 1-bed apartment, then you buy maybe your first apartment, which is typically maybe 1 or 2-bed apartment, and now, you have children and you settle here. Now I'm looking at a townhouse, and that's the natural development of a population, and if there's only limited even launches and current supply of these townhouses and villas, well, people like myself and people who bring in families over, and more families come in with 2-3 children plus, they have to find somewhere to live. You can't live in a 2-bed or 3-bed apartment, or you'd be very tight there. The quality of living isn't maybe worth it. So that's why people are moving further out. That's why more developments have become selling. Like people, when I came 9 years ago, people, if a launch went out in Emaar South or, and selling out on the day, that would just never happen back then. That would just be seen as obscene distance from anywhere in the middle of nowhere. Whereas now, people are prepared to commute, the infrastructure's getting better, there's more roads, the RTA announcing the metro line expansion across, and people are now thinking, well, that's 10 years away. But actually now I'm thinking, well, my property that I own I'll rather buy near one because I'm going to hopefully be here for 10 years. So that's the mindset now.
Yeah, and the whole market is basically changing a little bit. If we look at the 2040 master plan, we clearly see that the government is pushing the population south. So they're creating the 5th economic urban center around Expo City, with Al Maktoum, the biggest airport in the world, and the opening of Palm Jabal Ali. So this will also transfer some big part of the population to Dubai South, which is expected to absorb around 1 million people by 2033 and 2040. So the infrastructure is there, it's improving, and people are ready to commute, but also economic urban centers are being created. Companies are relocating to Expo, for example. This whole region will become the downtown of Dubai South, and we're expected to have around 35,000 employees working from that location, whether it's in a multinational company such as Siemens Energy, Nestle, DP World. So you have all these big companies, or also small and medium enterprises. So jobs are moving across Dubai now.
I think anyone listening to this would probably think we're real estate agents and we're selling the hell out of Dubai. And that's not what I like to do. I like to give an honest point of view, and I do thank you for doing that. But I do think anyone that has got any thoughts of not listening to a real estate broker probably look at that. You mentioned the 2040 master plan. You've got the D33 economic agenda. You've got the Dubai social agenda 33. There's all these different frameworks that are in place. And if you listen to us and then you read those, don't think it'd be long before, if you would genuinely consider moving to a foreign country, that Dubai would be ticking the boxes. And if I was looking to buy or rent, I think after listening to that, I'd definitely be able to make up an answer pretty quickly. Thank you for tuning in to House & House Real Estate Insight podcast. We hope today's discussion has provided you with valuable information on the key trends and insights from our 2024 market reports. A big thank you to our experts, Jake, Tom and Mokhtar, for sharing their knowledge and expertise on the leasing, sales and off-plan markets. If you're looking to make informed decisions in Dubai's real estate landscape, remember that our team of area experts are here to assist you every step of the way. Be sure to check out our market reports available on our website for an even more in-depth analysis. And don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned for our next episode, where we'll continue to explore the ever-evolving world of real estate in Dubai. Until next time, take care.